Welcome to the Sports Betting Preview Show, a pregame.com podcast. This is segment 2. I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo, along with Vegas Runner. We're going to take a look at, well, it's either going to be Game 7, Boston-Cleveland, or we'll be previewing the Eastern Conference Finals,
Between
Orlando and Boston. And so obviously, you know, we're taping on Thursday. Game 6 is yet to be played. It's played tonight. And, you know, just briefly, I mean, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Tuesday night.
Huge disappointment. I mean, you're supposed to show up for Game 5. And it looks to me like they just expect that LeBron's going to take over the game and win it for him. And if he's not on, no one knows what to do.
That was, you know, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I didn't have an NBA team. So the Cleveland Cavaliers were my adopted NBA, team. And I made several trips to Cleveland to watch LeBron play in that. If that was the last game for LeBron James in Cleveland in a Cavalier uniform, that's just a sad way to go.
Thrown an interception.
Bad way to go out. I mean, I'll tell you what, to hear the boos that were echoing through the arena, and I swear at one point I heard crickets in the arena.
Hypothetically, Boston should advance, okay? I mean, historically, a team that's up 3-2 wins 75% of the series. It's 28 sample size. They're 21-7. The road team, which is the Celtics, road team for the series, up 3-2, should close it out 75% of the time. Hypothetically, if Cleveland forces a Game 7, which is what we're going to discuss, I truly don't think they deserve to play Orlando. I think Boston's the better team.
Well, here's the thing, and this is going to be all in hypothetical talk because we don't know who's going to advance. But if they force a Game 7 and go back to Cleveland, does the fact that Boston beat them by 30-some points mean anything for Boston coming back in there? Was it lip service from Kevin Garnett after Game 5? I mean, you want to say the right things when you're talking about your opponent because you don't want to give them any fuel to the fire.
Sure.
And he said, we go back to Boston, we are treating Game 6 like it's Game 7 because we don't want to come back to Cleveland.
They know because they've won 2 straight now in Cleveland. They won Game 2 and they won Game 5. And they know probability isn't good that you're going to go on the road into a hostile environment and beat that same team 3 times there. So obviously tonight is the game for Boston, and they really do need to close it out, or else Game 7, probabilities change. Once again, Cleveland becomes the favorite. Anything happens.
History becomes their ally because history has said, historically,
Game
7's at home.
That's why you fight for home field advantage. In case it does get to a Game 7, you want to be at home, and that's where you want to play that Game 7.
Don't mention that to the Washington Capitals or the Pittsburgh Penguins. Because those are 2 teams that were heavy favorites that lost Game 7s.
And Cleveland will, again, become a favorite. Strangely enough, if you like Cleveland, what you need to do, honestly, is not even bet them today. Not even bet them tomorrow when they play 2 days from now, whenever. Bet them today to win the series. Boston's minus 200 right now to win this series. I think that's actually, since the 75% chance, that to me looks like value taken.
Because if they force the Game 7, and plus the fact that the line tonight, it's not a case of you take Cleveland plus the points.
Exactly.
Because the line's 1.5 or 1. That's a very good point because then you've got history on your side for Game 7.
They're going to be a big favorite come Game 7.
Let's fast forward. Forget Game 7, for the moment. But if they do force a Game 7, history says that they should advance.
Close it out, sure.
Of course, that's a different story with the point spread, and we got to see what the line comes out.
Sure.
But let's move forward to who's going to go to face Orlando. And I got to say, if Cleveland does manage a miracle and win 2 in a row against Boston, you got to wonder, what do they have
left for Orlando?
For Orlando, they've got to be spent going into the first.
Especially when Orlando has the confidence they beat this team last year. This year they got Jameer Nelson.
They had Jameer Nelson, but he wasn't healthy last year.
Exactly. He did nothing for them.
And believe it or not, a guy that's really helping out right now, is Vince Carter. I mean, here's a guy that has had been a huge bust in the playoffs his whole career.
Sure.
Now you've got because Vince Carter's not the go-to guy.
No,
he doesn't have to.
Who is? That's what I love about Orlando. Who is the go-to guy? Is it Dwight Howard? Is it Jameer Nelson? Is it Vince Carter? In
the last game where they blew out Atlanta again,
right.
Orlando, look at the breakdown. Rasheed Lewis, 17 points. Dwight Howard, 13. Vince Carter, 22. Jameer Nelson, 16.
That's what I'm saying. Any given night, this team could beat you.
Right.
That's why I say, right now, Western Conference, Eastern Conference, this is the best team in basketball. I think so. I'm hoping their stock don't go too high, and I can't make money off them, but I really do think so, Marco. I said it coming in. I like this Orlando team, and I was getting a lot of flack because, what, Vince Carter's going to make the difference? No, I really thought Jameer Nelson will be huge because Cleveland has trouble against teams with good point guards, and he's as good of a point guard as you're going to get. And I thought, Cleveland would be the team they face. So I leaned Orlando, and I think Orlando should be a favorite over anyone. I hope they meet Cleveland because Cleveland has such a perception around them.
That's where you'll get the value.
Exactly. Against Boston, I don't think we will.
You'll get the value against Cleveland. And let's, most likely it is going to be Boston that moves on.
Sure.
If it is Boston, what about them? Did beating Cleveland, satisfy? And I know that's hard to say, but what happens, and I don't mean that they're satisfied that they don't want to win.
You always want to win, but
when you beat the team, you beat the team that you think you have to beat
to win it all,
there's a mental letdown, and that's the beauty of the 7-game series. But if you go in and you start the series out 0-2 because you're still flat from the last series, you're
in trouble. Exactly, and that's why I think Orlando has a huge edge going in. They're sitting back, they're scouting, they've gotten a chance to watch both teams play each other game by game in the luxury of their own home, relaxing, resting. They're only the 6th team in NBA history to be 8-0 going into the finals. 6 teams. 5 other teams have done this. So this is how good this team is when you put them in relation to NBA playoff history.
Being a Philly,
they don't get respect.
Being a Philly boy, you got to remember that. You got to remember the Moses Malone 4-4-4,
baby. I was at that parade, 1983. School for that one.
That was great stuff. But I got to agree with you. So we don't know what the series price would be, but there's no question Orlando's going to have a huge advantage over either team that they play right now, current form, and it's going to be a war. I think mentally, Boston, if they advance, they come out from that series with a little bit of overconfidence and cockiness, knocking off LeBron. And if it is Cleveland scratching their way back, it is going to take so much out of this team to be extended to 7 games.
You're right. The Magic are in a great position to get back to the finals and get their rematch against the Lakers.
It's looking that way. Well, you got the Lakers moving on?
I don't know. I said I like Phoenix, but I don't know. I know Phoenix.
It's going to be a great series.
I don't know. I'll be honest.
Well, there you have it. We had to kind of tiptoe in this segment because we really don't know what's happening. But we gave you a ton of information that you can use for whichever way it sets up Game 7 or the start of Boston and Orlando. So that's been segment 2. We're going to be back with segment 3. We're going to talk a little bit of hypothetical stuff in NBA handicapping, kind of a how-to, talking about these series and different games. So be sure to check out the next segment. As always, you can always download and listen. Just go to iTunes, search for pregame.com. You'll find all of our podcasts. He's Vegas Runner. I'm Marco D'Angelo. We'll be right back with segment 3.